What if it wasn't a coincidence? What if, at this precise moment, Allah whispered something to you through the stillness of your heart? You look at this person, you feel them, without knowing why, as if your souls were speaking to each other in a language the world doesn't understand. What if it was a divine sign? This message isn't for everyone. It's for you. If you're with someone today and you feel a peace you've never known. It's not just love. It might be an answer. Stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to share might confirm what your heart already suspected. Allah says yes to you. You are aligned with your soulmate. And this message, it's for you. 1. Destiny, Qadar. When Allah unites two souls. There are encounters in life that make no noise, but that move the soul. Looks that don't seek to seduce, but that recognize. Silences in which we feel understood without having to explain. What if these moments weren't the result of chance, but the discrete manifestation of a divine decree? In the language of the invisible, there is a word that hearts feel before they even understand it. Qadar. It is not simply destiny. It is the sacred writing that precedes your breath, your name, your first step. And sometimes, in this writing, two souls are linked long before their bodies ever meet. It is said that some connections are older than time itself. That some souls, beyond this material world, recognize each other from the first second. Not because they discover each other, but because they find each other again. You didn't need years to love them. You didn't need promises to believe it. There was this evidence there, deep inside you, like a silent certainty, an inner peace that nothing can explain. And this peace, it's not of this world, it's from above. There are loves that burn quickly and fade even faster, but there are others that don't need a flame, because they are carried by light, a light that nothing and no one can extinguish. And this light is the reflection of Qadar, a celestial alignment between two souls that the world doesn't have to understand. You know you're aligned with this person when the love you experience doesn't depend on perfection, but on peace. When you don't feel emotional tension, but spiritual security. When every prayer seems deeper since they've been by your side. When every silence between you becomes a conversation with the invisible. There is no coincidence in what you feel. There is no illusion in this inner stability. If this person entered your life silently, but healed the storms within you, then perhaps you haven't fallen in love. You've simply fallen into Qadar. And Qadar is not a superficial romance. It is a union orchestrated by a higher wisdom, where love is not a flash in the pan, but a path to eternity. Don't always try to explain everything. Love that comes from above cannot be proven. It must be felt. And sometimes, the greatest proof that you are aligned with your soulmate is this divine calm, this new breath, this heart that knows without understanding that this person is not a coincidence, but an answer. 2. Sakina, the divine sign of inner peace. There is a form of love that doesn't make the heart beat faster. It calms it. It doesn't create euphoria. It establishes peace. And this peace isn't just any emotion. It's a trace, a subtle scent, a celestial signature, Sakina. You may never have called it that, but you've felt it. That subtle relief when you hear their voice. That stability you feel when they're by your side. You breathe better. You sleep more soundly. You don't need to explain your silence or justify your hurts. With this person, your soul finds peace. Sakina is that inner state where you finally feel safe. Not just physically safe, but spiritually safe. You're not afraid to be vulnerable, because you know the other person is looking at you with kindness. You don't need to play a role, because they welcome you into your truth. It's in moments like these that you understand. Some human beings are havens. They're not just partners, they're refugees that God places on your path. You may live in a noisy, unstable, sometimes cruel world, but as soon as they're around, the world slows down, doubts fall silent. The wounds of the past no longer speak to you as loudly, because in their presence, your heart remembers that not everything is chaos. There are pieces of peace, embodied, alive, that you can touch. This person may not be perfect, but they're aligned with the purest part of you, the one that seeks light, truth, depth. With them, you don't just live, you exist fully. Sakina isn't burning passion. It's the fire that gently warms without destroying. It's that feeling that you no longer need to run, to prove, to force. Because right in front of you, someone has seen you and stayed. You realize that true connection lies not in grand declarations, but in those small, silent gestures that say, I am here, I see you, I choose you, again and again. If your heart rests in this relationship, if this peace becomes stronger than your fears, sweeter than your expectations, more stable than your wounds, then perhaps what you are experiencing surpasses human love. Perhaps it's an answer, perhaps it's a grace. Some will find passion, others distraction. But you, if you have found Sakina, then you have found something that many seek without ever recognizing it. A peace placed on your heart, descended from above, silent but powerful. A sign that you have not dreamed of this love. You received it.
3. When love brings you closer to Allah, there are relationships that occupy you. And then there are those that build you up, those that remind you that love is not measured by the intensity of words, but by the direction they take you. Because true love, it elevates you. It gently pushes you towards Allah. It's not the one that makes you lose your mind. It's the one that helps you find it again when you go astray. He or she doesn't love you just for your appearance, but for the light you carry, even when you can't see it yourself. You recognize this love because it doesn't exhaust you. It disciplines you. It doesn't lock you away. It guides you. It doesn't distance you from Allah. On the contrary, it pushes you to rest your forehead on the ground, even more often. Look around you. This world glorifies relationships that make noise, but the love you experience in silence, the kind that reminds you to pray, that watches over your modesty, that says, have you made your dhikr today? That kind of love is rare and precious. When that person enters your life and suddenly you feel like you want to become better, not to please the other person, but because the other person shows you that you can please Allah, then it's more than an emotional connection. It's a mission. You begin to purify your intention. You want to build a home, not just a story. You want to grow together, not simply bond. Every prayer you say side by side becomes a foundation. Every hardship you go through together becomes an elevation. He or she may not have the perfect words, but there's this way of saying, stay strong. Allah is with you. This way of transforming your weaknesses into supplications, your pain into patience, and above all, your life in worship. You begin to measure love differently, not through gifts, but through reminders, not through promises, but through constancy, not through shared dreams, but through shared eternal goals. You notice that you are no longer the same person you were before this relationship. You have become more aware, more humble, more grateful, and this change doesn't come from the person alone, but from what this relationship activates in you, a return to Allah. Some loves consume, yours, it builds. Some distance, yours, it guides. You no longer need to look for signs. The fact that your heart is awakening to faith through this love is perhaps the greatest sign of all. So preserve this bond.
water it with sabr, dress it with tawakkul, illuminate it with dhikr, because it is not just a relationship. Perhaps this is an opportunity, an invitation to walk together, hand in hand, towards the one who is truly worth reaching.
4. Trials as a divine test of the soulmate. Sometimes, it's not the lack of love that causes suffering. It's the intensity of expectations, the accumulation of silences, the words we didn't know how to say, the wounds we thought healed, but which reawakened together. Because yes, even when Allah has united two souls, trials are part of the journey. True love is not without its storms. In fact, it's often in these storms that we discover if the bond truly comes from above. Because when things get difficult, two choices present themselves: flee or stay and mend. And the one who stays, even in pain, even in misunderstanding, builds something that many will never achieve: maturity of heart. You see, being aligned with your soulmate doesn't mean being immune to conflict. It means that even at your lowest, they remain a mirror. Not always pleasant to look at, but necessary. Because a soulmate doesn't always come to stroke your ego. They come to purify it. There will be misunderstandings, there will be disappointments, sometimes even doubts. And that's precisely where the test begins. Allah, in His wisdom, tests sincere bonds to distinguish fleeting feelings from deep commitments. It's not a punishment. It's a process, a purification, an elevation. Authentic love isn't the kind that survives when things are going well. It's the kind that still chooses, even when it's difficult. The kind that makes forgiveness a habit, that transforms pain into dua, that chooses to build even with trembling hands. And if you are both turning your faces towards Allah, even in the depths of the waves, then perhaps this bond is stronger than you think. Perhaps this trial hasn't come to separate you, but to purify you, to remove the superfluous, to expose what is true. Many give up at the first crack, believing that true love doesn't hurt. But the bond that comes from Allah, it forges you. It confronts you with your own limits, and it forces you to grow, to become more patient, more humble, more sincere. Look carefully. Despite the wounds, does your heart still want what's best for him or her? Despite the tears, do you still make dua so that peace envelops you? Despite the distance, do you remain certain that he or she is not your enemy, but your companion in trial? If so, then you're not just loving. You're elevating your love. You're making it spiritual. And perhaps it's there, in the depths of this difficulty, that you are writing something more precious than a fairy tale, a true story. A story built not on the absence of problems, but on the presence of Allah in your shared endeavors. If you feel this peace, this discreet but profound certainty, then don't ignore it. Love aligned with Allah's plan doesn't shout, it soothes. It doesn't distract you, it uplifts you. What you are experiencing, if it brings you closer to Him, if it teaches you patience, respect, pure intention, then perhaps you are exactly where you need to be. Take care of this love, protect it, nourish it with dhikr, gentleness, and sincerity. For the love we build with Allah as our witness is the only one that lasts beyond time. And if this message resonates with you, share it. Perhaps someone else is waiting for this same sign. May Allah unite you in this world and in eternity.